So it's about midnight on Canada Day, and I think the fireworks have subsided enough that no one's thinking I'm getting shot or swatted. The winds of change are a-blowing. I had the immense pleasure of catching a hangout a little while ago between YouTube heavyweights Sargon of Akkad, Croton T, Edgy Sphinx, Jeff Holiday, Bering, Benny, That Guy T, Dr. Layman, Wizard of Cause, and more. It was a legendary lineup of intellectual big dogs having real talk about real solutions in light of the widespread silencing of dissenting voices. More specifically, YouTube's new terms of service. I actually canceled real-life plans to stay tuned into it because I think it was that important. I've linked it below. They were discussing the new YouTube sanctions on free speech, ancillary to the EU's proclamations, and the seeds of a new movement were sown. I don't mean this figuratively, I mean it literally, as in an actual unifying movement was proposed. Fucking an hour or so was spent discussing the name and branding. I'll link it in the low bar. Pretty fucking brilliant, no? I found this incredibly honest, acknowledging differences in position, but unity in fundamentals. And yet, as something of a skeptic myself, the proposal of any kind of formalized movement set all my alarm bells ringing. Whoop whoop, danger, Will Robinson. Why? Because formalized movements tend to go to shit, and this is why we can't have nice things. The Sarlacc pit of popularity is the crux of why those of us advocating for free speech and open free market challenge, those of us who identify as skeptics and individualists, also tend to be on the losing side when it comes to greater successful social action. Because by definition, any canonized coagulation of free thinkers rubs us the wrong way by epistemological definition, while our opposition, currently coined as the regressive left and SJWs, do not suffer these crises of conscience, and so have numbers and weight they can bring to bear, effectively. This is the paradox of the constrained vision Dr. Thomas Sowell wrote about in his book A Conflict of Visions. But you've probably already seen this happen in your day-to-day. I remember back in my goth bunny gooderpunk days, way back when the influence was music and books and philosophy, and if you wanted to look that way, you had to sew your own fucking clothes. And then Hot Topic came along and commercialized the shit out of it. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. But back to the new skeptics. Those proposing this organized, branded movement aren't wrong in that it is something I think could do some real good. The devil is simply, as always, in the details. By definition, lone wolves don't tend to seek out packs. Now, I had this video all ready to record a couple of days ago, but just as I was sitting down to record it, a new offering by the ineffable Teal Deer popped up in my feed, entitled Op-Ed, Super Internet Best Friends. I've linked it below. It is a very insightful deconstruction of the camps. He uses this term loosely as a descriptor, but I think it's quite apt, in the skeptical community on YouTube. Now, Teal doesn't use the words constrained or unconstrained as I'm doing here, but his observations of decidedly unskeptical behavior from within the so-called skeptical community are exactly in line with what I'm talking about here. But back to A Conflict of Visions. So in the event you haven't read this book, which I suggest you remedy as quickly as possible, by the way. And seriously, are you saving up for something else, you know? Are you maybe saving up to go see Ghostbusters in the theater when it comes out? Here. I'm going to do you a favor. It's going to suck, And for those of us over 30, our childhoods will be laid to waste. There you go. I saved you some money by the fucking book. But Dr. Sowell chucks right-left partisanship out the window and instead proposes the idea that it is the worldview that colors who we ally ourselves with. Specifically, constrained and unconstrained. What I'm presenting right now is a really superficial skim of the ideas contained in the book, but I'll try to boil it down to a demi-glace even those who haven't read the book can swallow. Very simply put, the constrained vision focuses on individual action, responsibility, and the more successful or predictable parts of history and tradition, while the unconstrained vision focuses on collectivism, third-party elite policing, and all the idealistic hope and change stuff. Unlike me, Dr. Sowell doesn't cast either one as especially superior overall. For my own part, I'm a pretty hard constrained visioner. But his exposition on the locus and mode of power each vision strives for answered a lot of questions for me personally on why I have ended up rubbing shoulders with people who seem to have nothing in common with me, and yet we're in the same trenches, fighting the same war. So when you take it out of this specific ideology to how that ideology is being applied, it becomes more clear how in transgender debate we have Ms. Blair White, constrained, and Milo Stewart, unconstrained. How in feminist debate we have Dr. Christina Hoff Sommers, constrained, and then we have Jessica Valenti, unconstrained. How in the manosphere we have Dr. Randa Merkam, constrained, and Mayor of MGTOWN, unconstrained. It's not the fucking ideology. It's the vision behind the advocacy that tells me if this is someone whose ideas I'm likely to support or someone I'm likely to say, no thank you, to. Dr. Sowell's vision theory also explains why every good movement I personally could potentially get behind inevitably goes to shit as it expands. Because it's only a matter of time before solid constrained principles get sucked down into the unconstrained Sarlacc pit of fifis. I like the basic old-school principles of feminism, like education, but I have zero in common with it now. I like the basic principles of atheism, like I don't believe, but you can do what you want. But I have zero in common with the atheist community now. Fuck, I like the basic principles of the men's rights movement, but I have zero in common with the fringes who think that I, being female, am nothing but a child with tits. And as Teal Deer points out, I enjoy a great many of the content creators on YouTube, but I am inclined to reject the slide toward echo chamber thinking, drama mongering, and leftist bias within the skeptical sphere of content creation, and I've observed the same things he has. Bane666AU has also made 2 videos that illustrate this kind of atrophy very, very well, in documenting renowned atheist Aaron Ra's slide into unconstrained incoherence. I've linked them in the low bar. So for myself, and for, I think, a lot of people, given the lively conversations in my comments section, it's become easier to simply not use identity labels at all, to just quietly read and listen and learn and speak up on our own without joining a particular movement, party, or in-group. But even knowing this tendency, eyes wide open to the tribal realities of unconstrained in-group, out-group munchkinism, I think the time has come, the walrus said, to consider throwing our lot in to a greater degree. As Jeff Holiday said in a recent video, putting a pinky in. There's too much at stake with respect to free speech currently to remain the shadow gallery. I watched the video with Sargon and Kraut and Jeff and everyone, and trust me, if I went through every single one of their videos, I guarantee I will find a specific point or perspective I strongly disagree with. I equally guarantee they could do the same with me, especially given that I fall slightly more on the conservative right side of the spectrum than most of them. I don't even like the affect of some of the people whose videos I watch. I would never go to a bar with them, you know. We're not going to sit down and have a pint. There are a few people I would, though, but for the most part, nah. But whether I like them or not has very little to do with whether or not they have good points. But back to the proposal of the new Stoics or new skeptics or new whatevers. I see the merit of the arguments toward branding and a sense of greater community. I mean, everybody knows what happens if you don't have a flag.
Do you have a flag?
And as much as I don't feel any personal drive or desire to join anything, it's not just about me. Even as constrained as I am, I see the us. We're not talking about fly shit out of pepper now. We're talking about our future and our ability to even produce videos worth arguing over. And in the wake of the Brexit outcome, constrained morale is high and the iron is hot. As Vasquez would say,
whatever you're gonna do it fast!
So as I said in the chat of that video, I don't fucking care if they call themselves the new duck dongs. I'm in theory. Black Pigeon Speaks has also put forward a Kickstarter called Polstrat, a new platform for political discussion, and I pledged. The link is below. It doesn't mean I don't have questions. It doesn't mean I don't have concerns. It doesn't mean I don't believe with every fiber of my little black heart it runs the risk of corruption by the Sowell Sarlacc slide. And I swear to Gad, if Sargon starts using his platform to sell Acadian gummy vitamins, I'll be out so fast I'll leave a vacuum in time and space. But I see the vision. And if skeptics can't agree on anything else, I think we can at least agree that we need to protect our ability to disagree with each other publicly in debate and discussion. I'm not willing to let myself get sucked into the skepticism trap, where my critical and analytical nature means I am forever sitting on the sidelines. It's time to pick a side. But that side is not the people involved. I'm not on Black Pigeon Speaks' side. I don't fucking know him, and he doesn't fucking know me. I'm not on Sargon, or Kraut, or Jeff, or Edgy's side. Again, who the fuck am I? And frankly, who the fuck are they? If you, as in Teal Deer's video, make the sides about personalities and not arguments and vision, you are going down the unconstrained Sarlacc path. I am not led by people. I'm led by vision and my own judgment. My side is the one protecting my freedom to make these very videos. And speaking of which, thank you for listening.